My mother told me that I'd once promised to forget what happened in that room. She said it calmly, like she was reminding me of a dentist appointment. You looked me in the eye, she said, and said, we'll never talk about it again. I don't remember saying that. I don't remember anything needing that kind of promise. What I do remember is opening the door to my childhood bedroom for the first time in 25 years and immediately wishing I hadn't. I arrived that morning expecting dust and boxes, nothing more. The house looked smaller than memory, the driveway narrower, the siding a little more peeled, the lawn a little more tired. A for sale sign leaned crooked in the yard. Mom hugged me at the door. Still late, she said, into my shoulder. Traffic, I joked. There's never traffic on a Saturday. There is if you oversleep. She shook her head, smiling despite herself. We stepped into the air. It smelled faintly of lemon cleaner over something older, a scent like long closed drapes. Dad's recliner was gone. The empty square and the carpet where it had been was the first quiet gut punch of the day. I can't keep dusting ghosts, Mom said softly. The bedrooms are all that's left. She said it lightly, but her hand brushed the hallway wall as we walked, like she needed the touch point. My room was still at the end. The door was closed. I didn't go through anything in there, she said. I thought you'd want to handle it. My palm hesitated on the knob. Ridiculous. It's just a room, just toys, just the past. But the metal felt cold, as if the temperature dropped just around that door. You okay? She asked. Yeah, just weird. She nodded as if it was expected, then she left me alone. I opened the door. For a heartbeat, a brief, almost merciful second, the room was exactly as it should have been. Sun-warmed dust, blue cloud wallpaper, faded, an old, faded bookshelf, and on the windowsill, my old plastic spaceship. I actually smiled. It was still chipped at the wing, still had the yellow pilot rubber banded into the cockpit because I had lost the original clip. I picked it up and felt that rush of uncomplicated childhood joy, the way I used to fly this thing in circles, making low whooshing noises until Mom yelled that she couldn't hear the television. For 3 whole seconds, I felt 10 years old again. Then I looked past the toy, and the room fell apart. The light was wrong first. It slanted in low through the half-open curtain, cutting the room in a stripe that ended sharply at the far wall, like the sun refused to cross some invisible line. The wallpaper was torn there. A jagged, uneven square of plaster showed through where the bed used to sit. And on that plaster, someone had drawn dozens of vertical lines topped with tiny circles. At first, I thought they were childish height marks. Then I stepped closer. No numbers, no names. Each circle looked like a head. The lines beneath them like necks or bodies. Several had X's where eyes should have been. Others were scratched out violently. Graphite ground into gouges in the wall. The sunlight hit them directly. Dust drifted over the marks, making the figures seem to blur or lean, though they didn't actually move. My smile vanished. I set the spaceship down very gently, like I didn't want to disturb anything. Then I saw the rest of the room. Papers under the bed and across the floor, a sagging bookcase, my old desk with a drawer hanging crooked, and on the mattress, bare now, stained faintly yellow, an indentation where a child's body once slept. I picked up one of the papers from the floor, a drawing, if you could call it that, a figure with arms too long, ending in little clusters of frantic lines. The face was scribbled out into a dark void. Below it, in handwriting I recognized instantly, one word, sorry. My stomach tightened. Another page, a row of stick figures with long, vertical marks drawn all over their torsos like tallies. Another, a crude house with the bedroom window blackened in completely. I didn't remember drawing any of this. Footsteps behind me made me jump. Mom leaned into the door frame. Find anything good? Jesus, I breathed. He scared me. Sorry, she stepped in halfway. Wow, it's smaller than I remember. Yeah, I said. Did you see these? I held out one of the drawings. She glanced, just a flick, and I watched something flicker across her face. Recognition, fear, resignation. Then she smoothed her expression. Oh, she said lightly. Those. Those? You went through a phase. You were into monsters. You and your dad watched those scary movies all the time. Just kid stuff. I don't remember that, I said. You were 9. She forced a smile. Kids try on darkness sometimes, and then they grow out of it. The way she said it all, too rehearsed, too quick, set something uneasy spinning in my chest. She left me with a brittle, yell if you need me. I moved toward the desk. The drawer hanging open had a photo half sticking out. It was a Polaroid of me, maybe 8, sitting on the floor with a marker in hand, drawing on the wall. My face wasn't visible, head turned toward the corner. Mom stood in the doorway behind me in the picture. Her expression wasn't one that I recognized. Not proud, not annoyed, something tighter, like she was waiting. On the back of the photo, in my father's handwriting, keep him busy until I get home. My skin prickled. I set it down quickly. I knelt to lift the mattress. The springs groaned, dust puffed up. More drawings, more frantic obsessions on paper, and a shoebox labeled projects in childish writing that gave me a small electric jolt of recognition. Again, my handwriting. I peeled back the yellowed tape. Inside were strange little constructions. A triangle of sticks tied with red thread. A marble taped to cardboard like an eye. A melted plastic army man glued upside down. A stone with a circle inked onto it. Nothing supernatural, nothing impossible, just deeply intentional. At the bottom, folded neatly, was a note in my childhood hand. Don't let him in again. Underneath it, smaller, if I forget, it means it worked. There was a date, my 9th birthday. The room felt completely airless. Mom? I walked into the kitchen with the shoebox in hand. She looked up, saw the box, and her face drained. No time to hide it this time. What did you find? Do you remember this stuff? She stared at the box like it was radioactive. Oh, she said faintly. I thought your father threw all that away. Why didn't he? She didn't answer right away. You wrote things like that when you were having trouble, she said carefully. Your imagination got too active. You scared yourself. You scared me. What kind of trouble was I having? You don't remember? She asked. No, I said. She set down the mug in her hands with exaggerated care. You weren't sleeping, she said. You talked to the corner at night. I just stood there and looked at it. You wouldn't let us close the door all the way. You kept collecting little things from the yard and arranging them. You drew on the walls in your sleep. You woke up crying that someone was back or inside. She swallowed. You were 9, she repeated weakly. It was just a phase. That's not a phase, I said quietly. She looked away. Your father talked to someone, she murmured, a counselor. They told us not to encourage any of it, to remove the drawings, change the curtains, make the room feel normal again. They said you'd forget. I wrote that note, I said. If I forget, it means it worked. What does that mean? I don't know, she said quickly, too quickly. They said you needed closure. They said writing it down would help. They who? I asked. I said I don't know, she snapped. Your father handled most of it. And then we moved, and you were fine. Everything was fine. It was the first time her tone had cracked. I realized she was scared, but not of the room, of me. I went back in alone. The air felt different now, closer, thicker. The torn wallpaper revealed more pencil figures below the line of sunlight. Many were cramped and small, drawn where the bed had hidden them. One was horizontal, squeezed in with frantic pressure. Some had multiple heads, some none. I dragged the bed fully away from the wall, more dust, more warped floorboards. And in the narrow gap behind the dresser, just barely reachable, my fingers grazed metal, a small rusted tin. I opened it. Inside, a bundle of candle stubs wrapped in cloth, several tiny bones arranged carefully in cardboard, clean, pale, almost delicate. Maybe a bird, maybe a squirrel. Childhood hands had turned it into a pattern. A simple circle was drawn around the arrangement. Not occult, not elaborate, just a boundary. Child's attempt at meaning. Behind me, the hallway floor creaked. Put that down. Mom's voice, flat now, stripped of warmth. She stepped into the doorway but wouldn't enter the room. I thought I threw those away, she whispered. He promised me he would. He who? Your father. Why would Dad promise to get rid of this? Because we agreed, she said, her voice tightening, to forget what happened in this room. I didn't agree, I said softly. You did, she said. You begged us to make it stop. You begged us to take it away from you. Take what away? She looked at me, looked at the wall. You were not yourself that year, she said. Well, that explains nothing, I said. It explains everything, she snapped, though she still wouldn't look at me. We fixed it. You got better. Isn't that enough? No, I said, because I don't know who I was back then, and you won't tell me. Her eyes closed, like I'd hit her. You shouldn't have opened this room, she said. I never wanted you to. That's not an answer, I said. It doesn't matter anymore, she whispered. It matters to me, I said. Now she finally looked at me, and in her eyes I saw something that I had never seen before. Fear of her own son. You should go, she whispered. My throat tightened. Mom, you should go now. Her voice didn't rise, didn't tremble. It just emptied out, every warm tone drained, leaving something exhausted and frightened. Please, she said, I don't want you remembering things we worked so hard to let you forget. What did I do? I asked. She shook her head violently. It wasn't you. It wasn't. She caught herself. It was just a phase. The fact that she stopped mid-sentence said everything. She had meant to say that it wasn't me. She had meant to say that it wasn't only me. I set the tin on the floor. She flinched at even that small sound. I want the truth, I said. You don't, she whispered. You think you do, but you never did. That's why you asked us to help you forget. That's why you wrote the note. That's why we moved. That's why this room stayed closed for 25 years. And why keep all of it? I asked. The drawings, the bones, the box of projects, the wall under the wallpaper. Her voice dropped to a murmur. Because I didn't trust myself to throw it away, she said. Because every time I tried, I thought, what if he needs it someday? What if forgetting wasn't enough? What if it comes back? What if what comes back? I said. She stepped back into the hallway, gripping the door frame like she needed it to stand. Please leave, she said again, barely audible, before this starts waking up inside you again. And behind the fear in her voice, I heard something worse. Recognition. She remembered the version of me from that year, and she thought she might be seeing traces of him again. I grabbed my keys off the desk, but before I left, I stood in front of the wall one last time. The light came through the curtain in a narrow stripe again, illuminating the drawn figures, just enough for their heads to glow faintly in the graphite. My childhood drawings, their proportions wrong, their heads empty, seemed to lean subtly toward me in the shifting dust. I felt something like deja vu, like muscle memory, like the echo of a ritual I didn't recall performing. Mom, I said quietly without turning. You remember everything, don't you? She didn't answer, which was an answer. I drove home with the radio off. At the end of the street, I glanced back. The second floor window, my old room, had someone standing in it. Mom, I told myself, checking to make sure I left. I didn't wave. That night, lying awake in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, something finally hit me. I still don't know what I was trying to forget, but I do know this. It wasn't finished. Not for her, not for me, and not for that room. The last thing I saw before pulling the door shut was that wall full of figures, all their little lines pointing toward the same dark circle at the baseboard, the one spot the sunlight never seemed to reach. If I forget, it means it worked. I keep telling myself I don't remember what happened in that room. The truth is, I think it remembers me, and I think it's waiting. Some memories return slowly, like bruises fading in reverse, and you don't have to make sense of them all at once. It's enough to notice what you're feeling and give yourself the kind of patience you didn't have back then. Healing isn't a race, and you're allowed to take the days as they come. Just breathe, stay present, and let the past stay where you can see it instead of where it can ambush you. Take care of yourselves, and thank you for joining us.